Carry a song of joy in your heart, and may we all be one. Thank you, and good night.
Something is wrong with the moon, because unlike anything else that our astronomers have been able to find, it doesn't rotate. Okay? So first of all, it's not a moon, and it's not a planet. It's not a planet. It's a vehicle, and it's a command center for a sizable number of different extraterrestrial civilizations. So when you land on the moon, yes, you get the finger and they tell you to leave because it's no trespassing. So you don't get to go inside the moon and down into all these facilities, people working. Your moon, of course, isn't your moon either. It's their moon. And it's not a moon. It's a command center, and it's orientated at your planet purposely. Otherwise, it would just, if it was a planet, it would rotate. It's parked there. And it's a command center for a region in the outer part of one of the arms of the Milky Way galaxy.
This moon is not a moon. It's not your moon in the first place. Actually, this is not your planet. This is their laboratory.
What's refreshing about Corey is that he doesn't have any kind of overall perspective or agenda that he wants to sell, you know, that ETs are good or they're demons, or, you know, he's just revealing the facts and the experiences that he directly has first-hand knowledge about. Corey, he just talks about what he has directly experienced, and if he has an experience that he doesn't talk about it, and I find that very refreshing. And yes, I think that his testimony really has opened the doors. You know, and I'll be honest, I mean, he really did change my life. I mean, he's a truth teller. I mean, he is just revealing what he has directly experienced. And there's no agenda. I found no agenda.
Well, he is someone that says that he served in the secret space programs from 1987 to 2007, that he worked on a number of programs, beginning with the Solar Warden program that was run by the Navy, that served on a research vessel for about 6 years, and then he was reassigned to another branch of the secret space programs, doing other work related to interrogation of extraterrestrial visitors, trying to extract information. And so he, after a 20-year tour of duty, where during that time, as part of his duties, he says that to properly conduct these duties as an intuitive empath, because his job was to kind of like determine whether people were telling the truth or not. And so a decision was made by someone that in order for him to better be able to do that job, that it was good for him to be able to brief himself or have access to briefing documents describing all aspects of the secret space programs in terms of how many there are, you know, what the history of it. So he says he had access to these smart glass pads, similar to an iPad, but just fully transparent glass. During his service, during his downtime, and even sometimes when he was on official duty, that he would just be reading through this thing, reading all about the history of the programs, the different missions, the different colonies on the moon, colonies on Mars, some of the moons of the outer planets, and reading about the history of the Germans and how the Germans developed their space programs, that this was everything that he was reading on these smart glass pads. So from 1987 to 2007, he served for 20 years, and at the completion of that 20-year service, where he's reading all of this information, he's also performing all of these off-world missions, then his time of service is over. The first thing they did to him was that they, did a thorough debrief, where he basically said everything that he could remember about what happened. Then they essentially put him in this age regression machine, where they regressed him physically in age 20 years, and then they basically sent him back in time 20 years. So he's now sent back from 2007. He's been age regressed physically 20 years back to 1986, 87, and then he's subjected to another debrief, and then his mind is wiped, and he's returned home only minutes after he was originally picked up for his 20-year tour of duty, which sounds incredible. He's not the first whistleblower to say that he went through this. There have been others before him. Michael Ralph, the Mars whistleblower, said he did the same, that something like that happened to him from 1976 to 1996. Another whistleblower just before Corey Goode came on the scene, Randy CRAMER, or Captain K, says that he also went through a similar 20-year tour of duty and then age regression, 1987 to 2007. So you have three different whistleblowers saying they have gone through a similar process up the 20 and back.
5 participants of secret space programs who have come forward, Michael Ralph, Randy CRAMER and Corey Goode. Then
you have William Tompkins coming forward, and not only does William Tompkins confirm a lot of the information that Corey Goode said he experienced and saw, but William Tompkins also said that he had a hand in the development of the age regression technology. That back in 1967 to 1971, when he worked at TRW, that he worked on developing this technology, and that it was something that was developed to the extent where eventually it was used on these 20 and back personnel. So you have Tompkins now, with all of his testimony and his credentials and the documents he has supporting his background, saying that he did work on this stuff.
And advanced medical systems, longer lives. The size and the magnitude of what was taking place was unbelievable to everybody that got involved in the program. The SS found out that people could live longer. So there was another big, massive program given in pieces, brought back by the Navy operatives, plopped it on the table in front of Admiral Ikebata, and of course that ended up with about 24 packages because of the different magnitudes of living longer. And I guess if you ask the question for the Nordics, their comparable lifespans are 1,400 to 2,200 years. But they look exactly like us. There is a study that we did later on at TRW on advanced life systems, as extended life. And that program is down now to within less than 2 years. It's going to be available to some people on this planet. The way it works, I'm very involved with it. Essentially, you take 4 aspirin over 6 months, pop them, or you get 4 shots. You immediately change. Everything is nicer. Everything is nicer, okay? What you do is you revert back to the girl's 21 and the guy's 29. Now, it takes a while for you to do this. You then stay at that time for essentially a couple of thousand years. Your brain then, which collectively we're only using 2.2% of our brain. I don't care what they're telling us. We're only using 2.2%. You get a minimum of 400% capability over what you normally had. And now, what this does is, this allows you to contribute. Allows you to contribute. You go to work for the company here, 20 years, they give you the watch, and you got a couple of 3 years later on, and you're out of the picture. Okay, so you didn't contribute very long. All right, now you're living 2,000 years, and you can contribute, and you also can have fun for 2,000 years, and you don't change age. You stay there.
Completely doable at that point. Completely doable. You just have to conform the projected image to that. So if you just want the projected image of your 30-year-old body and you are in treatments for that, long enough, as long as it takes to sort of do that, yeah, you can restore all your cells to, when you were 30 or 18 if you really wanted to. Yeah, essentially you can take all of this ridiculous industry around rejuvenation, creams and techniques and things, and actually do something that works on a cellular level. And so instead of, convincing people that they need to buy more creams, you actually just have a technology that works. Yeah. This would also be the gateway to, changing, and this is really, I think, an opportunity, because we can really get away from this transhumanist sort of thing where we think that we need to make robots and then transport ourselves into robot bodies because that's how we can live forever. Well, with this technology, you can keep rejuvenating your physical body for centuries. So we could start living for centuries just based on the ability to keep rejuvenating our bodies on a regular basis. So we don't need to go into robot bodies. We could use this holographic regenerating technology to just live for centuries. Because I'm as sick and tired and fed up as anybody else of people continuing to tell and convince me that, well, you don't have any other options, so we have to rip your body open and replace your spine with, these plastic parts, or we have to tear you open and replace you with this, baboon organ, or you're just going to die, or you're just going to have to suffer, or you're never going to walk again. I'm as fed up as anybody as hearing Dark Ages answers to 21st century questions. We should have 21st century solutions to 21st century questions, not Dark Ages answers. So I'm incredibly, incredibly motivated to make that technology happen, because I think it's a game changer in every sense of the word, and could just be the difference between the old civilization and the new civilization. Civilization has never ever really truly changed because a king, an emperor, or a senate made a decision. It's because some guy invented something that integrated into that society or culture that improved everyone's life and made everyone's situation better. That's what moves civilization, our individual inventions and ideas, not kings, presidents, prime ministers, or senates. I normally don't like to just make people mad, but I do want to motivate some anger, but from people behind this, because I think some anger is what's gonna kick this can down the road in one way more than another, and that is to anyone who has lost a person, a family member, a loved one from cancer, any disease, any fatal illness or fatal injury that you were told couldn't be cured, didn't have to happen. It just didn't have to happen. If they hadn't been suppressing this technology for decades, that wouldn't have to happen. Truth is, if or lost somebody in the last 20 or 30 years, it didn't have to happen, because we've had technology that was way more advanced than anything that the civilian population has been using for ages and ages. So I would really hope that people would get really irritated and ticked off, because that's the kind of thing that also gets people motivated to participate. Because I'm telling you, half the reason we still don't talk about this publicly, or why the politicians aren't talking about it on the Senate floor and on the floor of Congress every day, is because all of their constituents aren't demanding them to. I'm telling you, if everybody's constituents of everybody's elected representative started demanding that we talk about this issue, it would start coming up and people would start talking about it, because even though they don't want us necessarily having all of our freedoms as much as we would like them to have. That's true. It's not true of every single person that participates in government or in state and in being a representative. And the main truth is that the more we participate, the more they will respond to us. So if everybody was demanding that we talk about this and get this technology, more people, more of our elected representatives would be talking about it, would be talking about, hey, we've got this technology, how do we get it out of the hands of these people and get it into the hands of the civilian population? We just aren't going to wait for that process. So we still believe in that process, and we still believe that people should get behind that process and tell their elected representatives that they need to do something about releasing these technologies to the civilian population. We're just not waiting for that to happen. So we're still doing everything in our power to make sure that those technologies get to the civilian population through another means. If that's what has to happen, we're definitely motivated on making that happen. We're not waiting for anybody, but we also don't think that just ignoring the fact that there's still a civil process is the answer either. We still have to involve our state politicians. We still have to involve our state representatives so that they're with us on this, because it's not just the government against us. There are some bad people in the apparatuses of government who are against us, but there are also a lot of people in the apparatuses of government who want to make it function and who want to help. And you just have to really start figuring out of your elected representatives which ones are the ones that want to help and which ones are the ones that don't, and start communicating with the ones that want to help.
I was contacted by an higher density ET group that has now been known as the Blue Avians. They're 8 feet tall. They look very bird-like. They're blue to indigo in color with feathers. As they speak, when they speak, they do a sign language or motion with one hand, and then they move their mouth around, and then they communicate telepathically. They've been here for quite some time. They've been observing, but they're here we're moving into a part of the galaxy that is a very high energetic part of the galaxy that's going to change the density of our solar system and our local star cluster. We're going to go through a transformational experience that is going to change us on a consciousness level, mainly. I don't know if it's going to happen to everyone at once, or if there's some people that are more spiritually evolved that are going to start showing these signs earlier. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a guru. My name was brought to this alliance and by this new group of Blue Avians. They mentioned me by name, that they wanted me to be a liaison between them and other groups. So I was sort of thrust into it. Yes, they were in contact with a person that I call by another name that's similar to his. He goes Lieutenant Colonel Gonzalez. He was a new introduction to me. He had been in contact with the Blue Avians about the same amount of time I had been, a little over 4 years. He was in contact with them. He brought my name to the rest of the secret space program. They really wanted one of their own guys to be a delegate or a liaison between this new group. I was contacted by Gonzalez. I ended up getting picked up in one of the shuttlecraft, and I was informed that I had been selected by the blue avians. They will either appear in my house or they have the little spheres come and bring me. I have a high vaulted ceiling house. They have plenty of room to fit into my house. No, they don't bend the floor. They're standing there just like a normal person would be standing there. They look like you could walk up and touch them. Well, I mean, I had been in contact with them for a while, but it was more of a personal nature. It wasn't a very regular contact. Yes, there's a small shuttle that fits 5 people, 2 crew in the front, and then 3 seats in the back. It's a triangular shape and goes up into somewhat of a pyramid kind of shape. And the side opens up, you get in. When it would float in the backyard, I had to go into the backyard to get in. When you'd step in, it would dip down and move a little bit. It was the black grayish color that you would see, that you associate with the stealth bombers that a lot of people are familiar with. Within a matter of a few minutes, it would zip up to the LOC, the Lunar Operation Command. This particular shuttle was new to me. There was some newer technology that I was seeing from when I was in prior. Well, at times they could make the panels go transparent where you could see out. But usually it was such a short trip, there was no need for you to see out. 3 to 4 minutes. I really didn't know what to expect. I was never really given, a lot of intel beforehand. When we land in the hangar, we disembark, and as I was getting off the craft, there were other craft. There were a lot of other people disembarking for this conference that were just kind of average Joes. And they were all starting to file into a line to go into one area of the VIP area of the Lunar Operation Command. And I was met by Gonzalez, who walked me past them to, there was a conference room right next to that. And he walked me right into the very front of the very crowded room and told me to stand. He said, "Stand right here." And it was almost in the very front of the conference room. So I stood there. I put my thumbs in the front of my jeans, feeling very weird because I could feel all the eyes on me. So then I looked up and started to look around, and I saw all these people in these swivel chairs in a cathedral-like conference room that went very high up. The room could hold around 300 people. And there were people from all over the world. There were people in different military type uniforms, different type of Air Force type jumper suits, and just a wide variety of people. And I was standing up at the front, trying to be inconspicuous as I could, being at the very front, have no idea what I'm doing, why I'm there. I was really starting to get nervous at that point. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was alone on stage. No prep. I was just walked there, told to stand there. And then all of a sudden, everybody got quiet and just kind of filed to their seats and started looking behind me. And I didn't see a flash, anything strange, but I looked behind me, and there was standing one of the blue avians that I've come to know as Raw Tier Air. And I knew one of the other sphere beings that I had never seen before, that we've come to now call the Golden Triangle Head, just because we've not been given a name or anything. They're not real big on names but its head was a golden upside down triangle. Huge head with huge eyes that were blue, and his shoulders were very thin, about the same width as his head. He was about 10 feet tall, a couple feet taller than the blue avian. And his arms were extremely long and thin, and his legs were too. No clothing, no sex organs or anything like that. And the skin was brown with a kind of a golden sheen. It had 3 fingers, and it was standing on 3 toes that were kind of supporting it like this, like almost like tripods. And it was there, didn't communicate, nothing. It just stood there. And it just seemed very, like it didn't have any bones in its body. It's just very weird apparition looking. And then Thierry began to communicate to me telepathically with his hand raised, doing the communication. I was looking at him. I mean, that got my attention, just like it got the attention of the audience. No one except for Gonzalez and a very few had seen the blue avian. So this was their first encounter with a blue avian. And all of them were there knowing that they were going to have, this was going to be, everyone else knew why they were there. I was the only one that really didn't know what was going on. And that's how, for some reason, that's how they work. They throw me into situations with me not knowing what's going on a lot of the time. It's odd, but I've kind of learned to roll with it. I then was told by Thierry to turn and introduce and repeat everything that he said, word for word, to make sure I repeated everything word for word and not to change anything. Everything had to be exactly word for word. So I turned to the audience, and now I don't remember exactly what all he had me say in the opening, but then he opened it up for questions. And there were a number of questions. A lot of them were technical. They were things that I didn't understand what they were asking. Thierry did, and I didn't understand what I was saying back to them. But there were some interesting questions that I remembered, and when I got home, I immediately wrote it down so I'd remember. And I've got a list of those. One of the people that looked like they were more of from Earth, that looked, they looked very important, very dignified, asked why they needed so many spheres. Why were there 100 spheres in the solar system? And why do these beings need these larger ships? And Thierry had me reply in this manner, we require no conveyance. There are far more than 100 spheres that are spaced out equidistantly throughout the solar system. They are what you would best describe as devices and are in place to buffer the tsunami of storms of high-charged vibrational energies entering your solar system, so they do not affect your star, planets, and native life in an adverse way as your system enters into this part of the galaxy.